Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation. I am multicasting on several platforms, so you could be watching on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. On whatever platform you're watching, we want to welcome you to the conversation. I'm going to switch it up a little tonight. We are going to talk about something serious that I'm sure you will get something from the conversation. If you are returning, thank you for your interest. And if you are new, I want to ask you to be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. And if you are new, if you stay to the end tonight, I am going to bless you with something. So be sure to stick around to the end. Now, I am live streaming right now from Mexico. Don't be alarmed. I'm safe. I'm totally safe. So don't call anybody, 911 or anything. I am totally safe. But I thought this would be the best place for me to talk to you tonight about our subject, and which is a lot of people are asking, is it safe to travel to Mexico? So along the lines, if you want to join the conversation, I'm going to put the link in the chat if you want to come on and talk to me live, or if you just prefer to text your comments, you can do that as well. So I just put that in the chat on whatever platform you're watching. And I'll show you my hotel room just a little bit. It's really nice. I don't know if you've ever traveled to Mexico. If you have, let me know what part of Mexico did you travel to. I am in the state of Quintana Roo right now, and that is where Cancun is, where millions of people travel to every year. And so Mexico thrives on tourism. And so I know people here want you to know that Mexico is safe. And there are lots of areas of Mexico that are safe, but we also know, especially if you live in the southwest part of the United States, like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and California, you know that there are parts of Mexico that it ain't safe. So that's why we're having this conversation tonight, because even though there are some parts that are not safe, it is a common occurrence that people crisscross the border between Mexico and the United States on a regular basis all the time. They do it for work, they do it for entertainment, they do it to go to school, they do it for medical procedures, because medical procedures are cheaper in Mexico, as well as medicine, pharmaceuticals, prescriptions are cheaper in Mexico. And they legally cross all the time. So it's not unheard of that people will cross the border to do different things. But if you ask the U.S. State Department what they think, they would have you think that all parts of Mexico are unsafe, because they've given it like a high crime rating across the country of Mexico. And that's just not necessarily true. But because when you look at tragedies like the one that happened a few days ago, where a group of four people, two were cousins and the rest of the other two were friends of the cousins. They two of them were shot and killed, and the other two were kidnapped. Um, Rightfully so, it should raise some level of concern. And so we do want to talk about that a little bit. But I can verify that all parts of Mexico are not a war zone. Okay, so in case you missed it, two Americans were shot and killed, and two others were found alive after they were attacked on a street in Matamoros, Mexico. That was over the border, U.S. border from Brownsville, Texas, over in that area. And the Matamoros is in the state of Tamaulipas, Mexico, and I've actually been to Matamoros. So I'm going to talk to you about my experience when I went to Matamoros. Those four people who were two killed and two kidnapped and were found alive, they are back in the United States now. And a family member of the survivor, Eric Williams, let me show you their pictures. So you got these four people. The young lady was apparently going over to do some type of medical procedure, and her name is Latavia Washington McGee, and she's already been released from the hospital. And the next person, that's Eric Williams, and he was shot about 3 times in his legs, and he had surgery at a hospital in Texas. And they were going over, the group was going over to support her in her desire to get some type of medical procedure done. So the next person, the two deceased guys, Shaheed Woodard and Zindell Brown. Now, Zindell Brown is the cousin of Miss Latavia. And so apparently it was a case of mistaken identity, according to what everybody's saying. The group of four, they were members, they were mistaken for members of a rival Haitian gang. And so they apparently were attacked and shot at, and the two guys on the right, they tried to run, they got shot and killed. And then Latavia and Eric were taken hostage and later found alive with the two people in their party who were now dead. And so our condolences go out to the families. And at some point, they did find them in a vacant house. And then there was a fifth person who was shot on the scene. It was like she was shot by and killed by a stray bullet, a Mexican citizen. Now, these four right here, they are from South Carolina. And a lot of people in social media comments are saying that they were down in Mexico to do a drug bust. But here's the thing, you don't have to drive hundreds of miles between South Carolina and Mexico to go do a drug deal. Okay. There's plenty of drugs to be bought and sold in the United States. Okay. You don't have to go that far. And so I believe, and especially because they said they found information in the car, that in their car where the incident happened, that's verified what was going on. They were down there to do some type of medical procedure. And so, like I said, people go to Mexico all the time for these types of medical procedures because they have the doctors in a lot of countries. The doctors are trained here in the United States. Well, I'm not in the United States right now, I'm in Mexico, but the doctors are trained in the United States, and they go back to their to their home countries to work, to provide services for their community. So just because they're not doing business, the doctors are not doing business in the United States, doesn't mean they're not United States trained, because a lot of times they are. So I just urge you that if you are looking to do some type of medical, they call it medical tourism, basically, if that's something that you plan to do, just make sure that your doctor is the medical person you're working with is trained and has safety protocol in place. So if you have done any medical tourism, meaning you've left the United States and went out of the country to get some medical treatments done, um, text me and let me know. I've done some medical things out of the country. In fact, I got my some dental work done in Mexico in Quintana Roo, Cancun area where I am right now. And oftentimes they have, like I said, the doctors are trained in the United States. They have the technology just as good as the stuff they use in the United States, and it's cheaper. Okay, so bottom line is if it's just as safe and they're trained there and you feel comfortable with what's going on, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't get it done here. But when I heard about the kidnapping and the murders of the four people, it reminded me of the time that I went to Matamoros, Mexico. So I'm going to tell you my story, and just because I don't know if you're a traveler, but I travel a lot. So it happened a couple of years ago. Let's say it happened more than 5 years ago. And I was working at a job, and I was going to go on vacation. I was going to South Padre Island, Texas. So South Padre Island is where a lot of people go for. It's the beach area. It's a tourist area where people go for vacation, and maybe some of the college kids frequent it for their spring break. So it's probably like going to be off the chain in a couple of days, couple of weeks, for a couple of months. So I was going to South Padre Island, and turns out one of my other coworkers, her name is Anu. Anu was going to go to South Padre Island with her family. And so I said, "Oh, I'm going to South Padre Island with the guy I was dating at the time." And so she and I said, "Well, why don't we meet up down there and go into Mexico together? And we will go into Mexico for a day of shopping." So she said, "Okay." So before we went, I'm going to turn this music down now. So before we went on our trip, I asked another coworker. His last name is Aaron Dondo. He is of Mexican descent, Spanish speaking, native Spanish speaker, and he grew up in Mexico. And so I said, and he was from the area where we were gonna go. So I said, Aaron Dondo, Anu and I are planning to go on a shopping trip to Mexico. Can you give us any pointers? Is it really cheaper down there to buy stuff? He was like, "Oh yeah, it's real cheap. It's no problem. You just go down there." He gave us some advice. So the last thing he said though was, "Whatever you do, don't go to Matamoros." And I was like, "Why not?" He said, "Because it's known for them kidnapping Americans and killing them." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, in the back, I've said that to him, like, "Oh, okay." When I'm saying, I said, "Dang, they like it's like that." So anyway, so fast forward a couple of days or a week or so until I was on vacation. So the guy I was dating is, let's say, Jay. Jay, that was his name, really. Jayy. So Jay and I ended up in South Padre Island. We were riding horses, we're shopping, getting our restaurant eat on at the difference for the fresh seafood and all of that. And the day came for me to meet up with Anu and go to Mexico to go shopping. Well, I texted her and she's like, "Oh, I'm not going. I changed my mind. My husband said he don't want me to go." Some mess like that. So I'm like, "So why would you wait until it's time for us to go and then you tell me you ain't going?" I hate when people do that, which is why I end up going by myself on my travel adventures these days, because I'm just, it's of course people have a right to change their mind, but it's just, what's the word? It would just be considerate if you would just let people know before it's time to go. So anyway, So I asked Jay, my boyfriend, I was like, okay, so Anu's not going. Do you want to go with me to Mexico to go shopping? He was like, no, I'm not going no damn Mexico with you to shop. And I'm like, but so you gonna let me go by myself? He was like, well, if you go, you going by yourself. So anyway, probably why we ain't together, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so I got in the rental car. And so I was South Padre Island is like near Brownsville, and Brownsville is right over the border, the US border, Mexico border, right there. So I started driving, and it's like maybe like an hour and a half drive, not even that far, but an hour. So I'm telling Jay, because he's not going, he's gonna let his girlfriend, who he's supposed to care for, go to Mexico by herself. And I just hate for people to make me change what I've decided that I want to do. So I had planned to go, and if nobody wants to go, Stephanie's going by herself. So anyway, I get in the rental car. I start driving and I see where it says Mexico border. So I didn't want to drive over the border. I wanted to walk over the border because I didn't want to, after all that we had planned, I didn't want to then have to worry about a car over in Mexico and parking and get it towed and all of that. And it's a rental car. I wasn't trying to go through all that. So anyway, I didn't see where I could walk over. So I drove through the checkpoint, the border crossing in the car, because there's two different types of crossings. You can walk over or you can drive over. And so I got up to the little little door window, because as you see on TV when the people are driving through the border. And I said, I don't want to walk over. I don't want to drive over. I would like to walk over. Can I do that? And they said, yes, ma'am. Just make a U-turn right here and then go on back. So it's kind of like when you go in a parking lot and you really don't want to be in that lot, and then they tell you make a U-turn and go back. So I did that. So he told me, the Border Patrol people told me, go up a few miles or whatever, and you will see where you can park in the United States, and then you can walk over. So I said, okay. So anyway, I did that. I found a parking area, and I think it was near, let's say, University of Texas, Brownsville, if there is such a thing. It was like a college area right near the border. And so that's why I think a lot of people who live in Mexico just walk over the border, cross over into the United States, and go to college. So yeah, it was it was no big deal. So anyway, I parked the car, I walk over, there's other people. It's like a line, like you're just getting in line, going through a turnstile, and you're in the United States. You're in Mexico. I don't even think they asked me for ID or anything. So anyway, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. So I'm just checking something right fast. Okay. So anyway, I walk over the border. So now I'm in Mexico, and there are like armed guards with like long guns standing there guarding the border. And I guess maybe I'm like, okay. So I did find it kind of odd, but I'm like, okay, I'm just here to shop for a couple of hours. Y'all do y'all thing. I'm gonna do mine and be on my way. So when I cross over, there's this big sign that says, welcome to Metamoris. And then it hit me. Arredondo said, whatever you do, don't go to Metamoris. So I'm like, okay, Steffanie, no, this is not where you want to be. People don't warn you. So it was my goal. I was going to walk through, do the turnstile thing, make the U-turn, and come back into the United States and regroup from there. And then before I could get through my U-turn to come back to the United States, this guy says to me, hey, you're here to shop? And I'm like, yeah. He said, oh, I'll take you shopping. And I was like, okay. So I just agreed there was this guy, let's say his name is Jaime, because I can't remember what his name was, but he was very friendly. He was dressed nicely, like casually dressed. I have no idea why he was just standing there at the border, but he was, and he just said, "Hey, you here to shop?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I was. So anyway, he was like, "Well, come on, I'll show you around. I'll take you to the places you need to go." And I don't know why I trusted this guy, but he like seemed like trustworthy. So, and I don't know if it's just me if I do this, but I am like a real confident person. I'm like 5'11". I'm taller than most people. The average guy is shorter than me. And so I always just feel like I can handle myself. And so hopefully, God will continue to watch over me, and I won't have to worry about that in the future, that I trust the other people too much. At any rate, so the guy was like, "Yeah, I got a car. I'm gonna take you to the places. What you looking for to shop?" So he never said, "I'm going to charge you for this." And I never asked, "How much are you going to charge me for this?" But I guess it was just understood, because I know this dude is not just standing at the border taking people shopping for free. I just know that. And so, yeah, I got in a car with him. It wasn't even like an official taxi. It was just a car with a dude who was already behind the wheel. So I guess that they were partners, partners in taking people shopping. So, so there was the driver who I didn't know, and Jaime probably introduced me to the dude and said, and I said, "I'm Steffanie." And Jaime said, "I'm Jaime, and this is the driver." And so I'm sitting in the back of, it was a 4-door car. I'm sitting in the back. So they're driving and they're talking Spanish. Okay. And I know very little Spanish, but I can pick up on a few words. And Jaime spoke okay English, enough to get me to get in the car and go shopping. So I'm just looking out if they're driving and talking in Spanish. And I'm not understanding what they're saying. Now, let me pause here, because if you have been in any situation before where people are around you are talking a different language than what you understand, you might feel like, why are they doing that? Why are they talking? And that's rude. You might say that's rude, or they're saying something about me. And at this point in my life, I probably thought that. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking, but here's what I've learned because I work with a lot of people who speak different languages other than English, and I speak broken Spanish. Great English speaker, broken Spanish. I can pick up on a few words and I can express a few words, and a few things in French. But other than that, you lost me. But anyway, I've learned that people who speak a different language, so let's just focus on Spanish. People who are native Spanish speakers, I've learned that instead of them trying to know Spanish and then think about what they need to say in English and then say it in English to each other to make someone feel comfortable who doesn't understand Spanish, it's a whole lot to that for them to mentally do all that, when all they need to do is say something fast in Spanish because that's their native language, and they get it done and they move on. Or they talk to each other in a conversation and they don't feel like they need to worry about whether I understand or not, because they're not talking to me and they're not talking about me. Now, I know sometimes if you go to a mani-pedi place and the biggest complaint is, "Don't talk around me," whatever, your Asian people talking around me, non-English, because y'all are talking about me. I mean, I understand that, but just understand this, native English speaking people. Sometimes it's not about you. Okay. Sometimes people do what they need to do to speak their own language so they can hurry up and get it out and go on about their business. And so That's what I've learned about people who speak other languages other than English. Sometimes it's just not, they're not being rude, not trying to be rude, not trying to hide anything. They're just trying to go on with their lives as quickly as possible. Okay, so now back to my story. So I'm in the back of this car and I'm in Matamoros, Mexico, where I've been told they kidnap people. And I'm in the car with a stranger who I just met at the border crossing, and somebody's driving who I don't even know this guy, but they told me they're taking me shopping. And so eventually, we end up at some little strip mall areas, and where I was introduced to jewelry and clothes and shoes and what else? Some little trinket stuff that you put on your shelf and it gets dusty and all of that. And so I wasn't interested in that, but I felt like, okay, he's taking me shopping. At least so far, everything is cool. So we spent a couple of hours driving around, and then at some point, Jaime says, "So you think you got everything you need?" And I said, "I think so, Jaime." So then I think something like, I think I might have said, because again, I can't remember exactly, but we ended up at a bank. And so I probably said something like, "I need to get some pesos," or something like that. And I can't remember if we went to the bank before we went shopping or after we went shopping. But at any rate, since Jaime was saying we're ending our shopping trip, I knew at some point I needed to pay Jaime for his time, because this is a transaction going on. And so anyway, we went to the bank, we got some money. Jaime told me, his price, or I said, "How much do I owe you for showing me around?" And he said something along the lines of $50, or he told me in pesos, or he might have said it in, dollars, $50. It wasn't a lot. Okay. So, and I don't know that I would have been in a position to refuse to pay Jaime. I'm not paying your ass, Jaime. I wasn't going to say that. So at any rate, it might have been like $50. It was not a lot. It was not a lot. So anyway, believe it or not, Jaime and this guy drove me around Matamoros. I shopped, and they took me back to the border where they picked me up. And so I was going back over the border. Oh, and when Jaime says, "And if you know any of your friends who want to come over and shop, be sure to give them my name, because I will show them around." And he gave me a card with his name on it, his email address or phone number or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, Jaime in business. So anyway, it was getting about time for me to show back up, because Jay and I, the guy I was dating at the time, we had already said that I was going to come back at a certain time. And if I didn't make it back at that time, he was going to wait about an hour before he started worrying. So I was like, it's getting time for me to get on back, because I don't want Jay bothering my mama about she went to Mexico and I ain't seen her since. Okay. So anyway, so Jaime dropped me off, and I had my phone, because I had taken pictures, and I had my phone as I was crossing the border, and I'm looking at my phone, and the border patrol people, as I'm trying to cross back into the United States, said, "Come here." So I said, "Me?" He said, "Yeah, you." So he pulled me over to the side and was like, "You cannot have your phone out taking pictures at the border." And so I think I had snapped a picture, because I was like so excited that I was at the border and I had gone shopping in Matamoros. It's supposed to be a unsafe place. And I'm not saying it was safe. I'm saying did nothing happen to me. Okay. And so I was like, and so they took my phone, or it was a camera. I can't remember, but whatever it was, they took it. They looked at my pictures that I had taken, and they deleted the ones that pertain to the border or whatever they said that they didn't want me to have on the phone. They deleted it. And they saw that I had been in South Padre Island, because I had pictures of us riding horses and eating and all of that. Because they were like, "Why are you here? And what you doing? Why are you taking pictures?" And so I told them I'm on vacation. I just came over for the day. Don't. It's not that big of a deal. But this whole process of them holding me while they looked through my stuff and delete it took about 45 minutes. So I'm sitting in this holding area, and they wasn't a jail or nothing. It was just like off to the side behind a glass. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm thinking to myself, am I about to go to jail over some pictures? And I just spent the day in like supposed to be a very scary place, and I made it, and now I'm about to go to jail because I took some pictures. So that's what I'm saying to myself. And then somebody came back and gave me my phone and told me, don't do this no more. Don't do it. And so I said, okay, thank you. And then I went on my way, walked back to the car, and drove back to my hotel room where Jay was watching TV with his feet up. Okay. And so he hadn't worried like not 1 minute about me. Okay. And so I was thinking, you could have been watching TV at home. Why are you like doing? I just don't understand why people go out of town, go on vacation, and do the same stuff that they could have done at the house. I just don't understand that. But anyway, that's me. So anyway, we get back over there. I get back over there, and all was well. And yeah, and I told Aaron Dondo when I got back to work, I told him about what happened, and he was like, "Woo, girl, I'm glad you made it back." And so I was like, "Yeah, me too." So I'm saying all that to say I'm not trying to make light of what happened to the people in Metamoris a few days ago, because crazy things can happen, okay? But I'm saying that was my experience when I went to Metamoris. It could have been worse. It could have been different. And let's see, somebody is chatting. Barbara Simmons said, I did a foolish thing. And you know what? A lot of people probably feel that same way. So I appreciate your feedback, Miss Simmons. The thing is that, foolish, that word foolish is what you might think is foolish, I might think is adventurous, or what you might think is dangerous, I might think is just me trying to get out of my comfort zone. And so I certainly understand, because if it was my child, if it was my daughter, I wouldn't want my daughter doing what I did. But when you're in the middle of something, or you're trying to break out of your comfort zone, sometimes you end up doing things that other people think is foolish or is dangerous or scary. I was talking with my mother, and I'm not going to hold y'all too much longer, but I was talking to my mother because her birthday just passed like a week ago, last Saturday. And she talked about things that I do that scare her. Like, we've been to different places. Anyway, I was like, Mommy, have you ever done anything that you felt like was fearful, that you were afraid of, but you did it anyway? And she said, no, never. And I'm like, that's so foreign to me, because I often do things that I am afraid to do, but I just do them because I push through, because I want to live life and have experiences that I can look back on favorably and say, Steffanie, you did that. You were brave and you did that. And bravery is different for different people. Anyway, so I understand what you're saying, Miss Simmons. So I challenge you, though, not to do something foolish, but to do something out of your comfort zone, at least, to make yourself just expand your horizons or your vision. Or even, I used to be afraid to travel alone. If I continue to be and didn't go anywhere by myself, hell, I wouldn't be going nowhere, because people often allow themselves to limit themselves, whether it's because of money, whether it's because of time, whether it's because they are afraid to go. Lots of reasons why people don't do what I have found in my life that I do. And so just doing that, that's something that I want to share with you. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I go through everything that I wanted to tell you. So yeah, I'm telling you this not because I'm making light of what happened to the people in Metamoris, because that is tragic. But I just want for you to realize that things are going to happen, and if you have a plan when you are traveling, that you are more than likely those things are not going to happen to you. And Miss Simmons says, I travel alone. I was more uncomfortable with the two men and one you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Two people and I didn't know them. And if I had to do it again, I might not have. I was just, determined, because everybody's like, oh, I don't want to go. Oh, I don't want to go. And anyway, the last thing that I did that I went out of my comfort zone is I went hiking by myself at Mountain Guadalupe National Park, by myself. And I make sure I start early enough so that I can not be caught in the dark in the dang forest, trying to maneuver my way down a rocky path. And so, just doing things to just expand my comfort zone a little more is something that I do. But I appreciate that. And so if you travel alone, Miss Simmons, and I travel alone, we might need to hook up and go somewhere together. So follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TCB Steph and leave me a DM. And then the last place I went internationally by myself was Morocco last September. For my birthday, I try to go on an international trip every year on my birthday, for my birthday. So even if you want to travel to Mexico, there are lots of places that you can go. If you feel better getting a guide, somebody who knows the area, and you can, feel comfortable that you're moving in the right area, because you can get caught up in a bad situation around the corner from your house. Okay. A block from your house, in the dark up the street. So Mexico, has those same issues that we have in the United States. Sundown towns, you can get caught in the wrong place at the wrong time of day, and you got to fight for your life. So, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share. And if you have stayed until the end, I'm going to send you a free gift. If you email me at info@stephanierivers.com, I'm going to put it in here for you. Info. Oh Lord, I keep erasing it. Hold on. I have my computer is at an angle. And so every time I type, I was erasing what I was typing. So info@stephanierivers.com. That's my email address. And you have to be a subscriber. And then I will send you, email me your name and your an address where I can send you something. And it'll be a free gift. And it won't be, I won't charge you anything because you stuck around and listened to my story about the time I went to Metamoris, Mexico. And so that's it. And I wanted to make sure that I use all my CG. So is travel to Mexico safe? It depends on who you ask and where you're going. And so, but go somewhere. If it's not Mexico, go somewhere, y'all. Quit sitting in the house looking at TV. Okay. Unless you're watching my videos. To find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thank you and have a super day.